Welcome to Islamic Life Coach School podcast. Apply tools that you learn in this podcast and your life will be unrecognizably successful. Now your host, Dr. Kamal Akhtar.
Hello everyone. Peace and blessings be upon all of you. No matter what news station you turn to get to your factual information, you'll find that they're not unbiased. Most of them have inherent biases. I did find one unbiased news station, and that's the personal news station of your emotional state at any given moment. It tells you a lot of information. You just have to tune into it to listen. It's really strange to think about the fact that most of us aren't trained to truly listen to the internal news station of our emotions. Why do you think that is? Well, because we've never been equipped with the tools to sit and truly understand what our emotions are communicating. And the result of all of this? When unfamiliar emotions rise up within us, discomfort takes over, and we quickly mute this inner broadcast. But what captivated me even more was the profound connection I discovered in the studies of Quranic tafsir with my teachers, and how I was able to make the connection of emotions as news. So the Quran uses two distinct terms for the word news, and those are khabr and naba. Naba is the name of the surah chapter 78 in the Quran, and naba implies the news of resurrection and the hereafter. It translates as tidings or good news. In this podcast, I'm going to explain to you what parallels there are when it comes to the news of the emotions and how it relates to khabar and naba. I've always believed that our emotions are intricate messages that our brain produces, and our bodies echo these signals to us to decipher and notice. So when I came across these terms in the Quran, I was taken aback by the uncanny parallels. So let's dive deeper. Islamic scholars outline 4 unique components of naba. I'll reveal these components and show you how they align with our emotions. While both khabr and naba can be loosely translated as news, the true essence lies in the understanding of their profound connection with our emotional states. How our emotions relate to the Quran's use of the 2 words of the news, and how we use to create a profound effect on our wellness. This is the topic of this podcast. So naba, as it differs from khabr, has 4 components, and they're very specific. First component is the scale of importance. The second one is that it carries a necessary and inherent benefit. The third is that it demands an action. And fourth is that it's a physically tangible event. So I'm going to describe separately how this applies to emotions and how it is so profoundly beneficial for us to create an impactful life when we think about it in this light. And what kind of lessons do we get out of this comparison? So for number 1, scale of importance, khabar versus naba, both means news, but naba is greater news, something more important. Like an example of a 10 o'clock news of breaking and entering is khabr, but an example of news of a president getting elected, war being started, these are bigger news. They qualify as naba. The gravity of the matter being reported to be more important news is naba. Big news like death in the family or birth in the family, these are naba, more impactful. Small news like burglary and such are more like khabr. So naba is the headline on the front page, while khabr is a smaller article on the 3rd page of the newspaper. Your boss getting a pet is a small news. Your boss promoting you is big news, more impactful, something everyone will talk about. How this component of news relates to our emotions is that we have emotions on a spectrum. Something that lingers and doesn't really provide us life-changing information, but other deep feelings like grief or euphoria are like naba. They're more significant in their presence. They shake us out of the state of the mundane and routine existence. Everyday emotions like slight annoyance might have a minor level of khabr, but irritation, fear, and terror carry within them the energy of high-level noise, a news of greater intensity that we will learn to slow down and receive the information. Emotions are on a spectrum. They carry both big and small signals. So you might hear a khabr or less important news of a family moving into the community. It's good to know, but it doesn't affect your day-to-day activities. But naba is when you hear that a community is becoming so large that we're building a new mosque. And the big project is bigger news. A small irritation when all of a sudden your pen goes missing. It might prompt you to label your supplies so nobody in the office steals them. But the big news is that when you hear that the market is up and you have a huge gain in your investments. At any given moment, our emotions are giving us big or small news based on their intensity. The point I'm trying to make here is that the profound impact on your life is from emotions that's hard to put into words. If you can learn to interpret this news, you can turn your actions in that direction. Slow down, learn, investigate, find out what this news channel is telling you. So this was as it relates to the first component of naba, the scale of importance. The second component is naba has a necessary benefit. Like for example, if you hear of a fire in your building and it means you should escape or warn others, the emotion of fear might compel you to escape danger. There is an inherent beneficial nature in it. Now you might be wondering how building catching a fire is beneficial news. The benefit comes from what you make the news to mean. What do you do once you're here, what it is that's actually happening outside of you? Naba carries a benefit in it because you create benefit out of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the news of the afterlife naba, meaning we can hear about it, but it depends on us to make this life beneficial for us so we can actually make it beneficial for us in the afterlife. Khabr is just usual news, doesn't necessarily carry an inherent benefit. Both negative and positive emotions can be used to derive benefit out of. If you're angry at the atrocities against the Muslim nation, the anger carries a strong message, and it is beneficial for you to learn what that anger means, in case that helps you create channels of support of your community and your nation. The news you receive from your emotions remain a khabr, meaning a tiny news, versus naba, a greater news, depends if you're able to derive benefit out of it. And very difficult emotions like I teach you guys as it relates to apprehension, frustration, alienation, despair, isolation, all emotions carry an inherent message. Usually a negative emotion means that something is happening around you that you don't value. In that case, you just need to slow down and create a benefit out of this message. So you're not accidentally living a life where emotions are actually telling you all of the news, but you're not tuning into it. If you're able to drive a benefit like creating actions from a message that a very intense emotion is sending you, you have automatically converted that into great news like naba, a message that the genius design of your mind and body is sending you. So that was the second component. The third component of naba is that it demands an action or a reaction. It demands some sort of activity on your part. When you hear a naba, it demands you change something about your actions or yourself. Going back to the example of the fire in the building, it demands that you take action by getting up and running out of there and informing others of the fire and save other lives. It demands a response or action. Every emotion has the potential to prompt you towards actions or response. The transformational impact of this comparison is in your life, and that has to do with paying attention to what emotions tell you so that you can be inspired to create change, growth, and reflection within you. If you as a professional woman hear the major news that a project you proposed has been accepted by your company, and now they will be implementing your idea, not only is this bigger news compared to, let's say, your colleague forgot to bring her lunch, this bigger news of your project being accepted also compels you to take further actions. Now you have to make sure that the project comes to fruition with the vision that you idealized. You put in the effort, the hours, the skill, the leadership you require, and you take all of the action. Naba not only informs but also demands an action. It is a kind of news that requires you to do something about it. Your heightened emotions of excitement and thrill will inspire you to take further actions into the project. These are your emotions that are the news within. But let's consider in the same example when you proposed a change or a project and it is being accepted by the company, but during the implementation of the idea, you realize that there's a flaw in your plan. This is going to be big news, especially if you see that it means that your plan is not going to be implemented. Now, if you feel dejected and heartbroken, these emotions also have the potential of inspiring further actions, even though they're negative emotions. So how do you take immediate action from that? You slow down, you listen. In this case, they're telling you that you're feeling down because you were excited about your idea. And now, all they're telling you to do is to pivot. To convert this emotional energy into great news, you will need to notice that the disappointment and the heartbreak that you feel from seemingly failing project is telling you that it is important for you to be successful at what you do. So then your action becomes, what can you do to pivot and change and channel your energy into overcoming these obstacles? Because setbacks are inevitable. The major news of the negative emotion can only be converted into action if you don't stay in the negative emotion longer than you need. When there is a naba, an immediate action is needed. Emotions are alarms, alerting us when something is up, regardless if the alarm's positive or negative. It is just news. The brilliance of positive alarms or positive emotions is that you can sit there and enjoy them because they feel really good in your body. Positive emotions are incredible in your body to experience, and you have all the permission in the world to feel the pleasure that positive emotions bring. Allow yourself that. But significant anxiety before a speaking engagement is also major news. Only if you use that anxiety to get alerted that what is important to you, and it seems like it's important for you to deliver a very memorable presentation. So then channel that news into action of preparing for the presentation, creating new focus, bringing energy and leadership into the presentation. When you have turned your emotions into actions that benefit you, the emotions are great news, like naba. So then the fourth and the last component is naba signifies something tangible, clear, and manifest. In contrast, khabr is pointing out to everyday information. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to afterlife with the word naba, it highlights its concrete existence. So the scholars I learned this from tell us that while some faiths view the afterlife as mere spiritual experience, in Islam, heaven and hell are actual tangible realms, not just abstract thoughts or fleeting imaginations. And now I want to remind you guys that I always tell you how emotions are neurochemicals within the body that create sensations. While experience says emotions are subjective, and there are not any real ways to measure emotions with something physical and tangible, science says that emotions are actually neurochemicals, molecules that are physical and tangible. And this is more of a recent finding in science. Emotions like naba are physical and tangible. Naba is a manifest event, not an abstract concept, something we can see and touch. The molecules of neurochemicals are just as physical as atoms that make up a table or a chair. Emotions are concrete, both when being sensed within the body and when existing as physical structures. What you witness, your behavior and actions that are the result of the emotions, that is not the physical manifestation of emotions that I'm referring to. What I'm talking about is actually the molecular makeup of stress, which might contain high levels of cortisol and adrenaline, or when you're experiencing serenity, which contains a high level of oxytocin or serotonin. All physical, tangible molecular structures, while being studied and defined in modern science. Emotions have physical roots, and they're being driven by neurochemicals. Our body is the best container to hold these neurochemicals, and our mind is the antenna that perceives it. Naba, as it is referred to in the Quran, relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, referring to both heaven and hell as tangible places, not just spiritual realms. Just like that, emotions aren't just psychological, but have physical bases. Naba isn't just an idea, just like an emotion. It's concrete, it's real, it's undeniable. Now, emotions might feel intangible because they are feelings, but they actually, again, have physical bases in our body. They're not a figment of your imagination. So, as a recap, understanding the news spectrum of our body, when we think of news, some headlines grab our attention right away, while others are just a quick read. Similar to that, when it comes to emotions, some feelings just gently tap on our shoulders, while others shout in our ears and shake us to our core. In Islamic terminology, khabr is linked to smaller pieces of news, while naba represents major headlines. Minor news alerts don't drastically change our day. These are light emotional nudges that give subtle hints about our environment without overwhelming us. But if you have a rush of worry, something that immediately concerns you, like the safety of your family, the uncertainty of the next paycheck when you hear the news of being fired, the emotional news that has this level of inherent profoundness, this relates to major news, you're called to immediate action. It carries a necessary benefit in it if you choose to make it, and it's tangible in its presence. Your internal news station is the most trusted and unbiased one. Now, one thing I want to point out that I didn't say react from your emotions as if react from them being on an autopilot. Act from your emotions with intention. So the 4 components of naba are the scale of importance, the necessary benefit, the fact that it demands an action, and it has a physical nature. Your emotions meet all of these criteria, and that is your best news channel. It is my sincere hope that strong feelings don't dominate our hearts and minds, but rather guide us to take right action. Emotions are your body's way to send you messages. Treat them like a news station, sending you information about your surroundings, what to pay attention to, what is okay to ignore. Knowledge in your body means you have turned into. If you do that, you've tuned into the most trusted news station. With that, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, as our attention goes in a million directions with the news of today's world, guide us to recognize the true information. Guide us to our emotions' true weight and message. Guide us to treat emotions for the purpose they were truly created for, information, so we can self-correct and stay on your straight path, inshallah. O Allah, protect us from impulsively reacting to emotional signals, but rather inspire us to act with purpose and clarity. Ya Allah, bless us with the wisdom to see your magnificent design and treat our emotions as guiding us and alerting us. Let these feelings not control us, not overtake us, but guide our actions in alignment with your will. Ameen Ya Rabbul Alameen. Please keep me in your du'as. I will talk to you guys next time. If you're interested in getting coached by me, I'm offering a very affordable opportunity to do that with Wisdom Wednesdays. This is not a course, not a lecture. This is an opportunity for live coaching, real change, with Islamic adab and etiquette. You do not need more information, you actually need a space to create change. At $19.99 a month, which is the price of takeout dinner, you as a Muslim woman will create confidence, intimacy, and connection without shame or fear of judgment, because your privacy is my highest priority. So join at www.islamiclifecoachschool.com. Resources, Wisdom Wednesdays. I'll see you inside, inshallah.